everybody. It's Max McAllister here from Traction Dynamics. We're back with the part of our installation series on our trunk quick removal, quick change, and relocation kits. This is the part where we're going to assemble the trunk and the brackets that are required to mount the trunk in quick fashion, if that's what you're after. So at this point on our bike, it's fully assembled, and our traction base brackets are installed here in place of the factory Honda brackets. You can come a little closer and look at this. So our bracketry is installed. Now, this set of stainless steel brackets are the ones that go if you're going to mount the trunk on your bike. These are made of stainless steel, and the reason we chose to do that is because you'll be putting hardware through the trunk into these two holes, and we wanted to make sure that the holes were strong and couldn't really be damaged or wiped out while you were trying to get the bolts started into those holes. We've put arrows on all the parts that point forward. The left and right, there is no left and right part. These are universal. There's dowels on the parts. It's impossible to install them improperly. So just put them on the dowels, arrows pointing forward, and put the two bolts in. Now, the same bike, you'll be able to put the trunk in the stock location, or you'll be able to back it up into a backwards location for your passenger using this bracket. There's a second little set of brackets that you have to buy if you want to back the trunk up. If you're putting the trunk in the stock location, you're going to use these two forward holes. But that's not going to be that important for you to know, because when we use the stock subframe bracket, we're going to start by putting the bolts through the subframe bracket, and that will automatically set the bolt holes where they need to go. You won't have to figure that out. If you're going to use the backup kit, which we'll show you in another video, there's going to be an adapter bracket that goes here that backs the subframe up some. All right, so let's go over here and take a look at our trunk. Now, the trunk, when it's all set up, it's just a complete assembly. It's totally finished. You just pick it up and set it down on the bike. Very, very, very cool to do. This is the trunk emergency release cable. It's normally hidden in the right saddlebag. It runs through the electronic setup and the switching mechanism for the right saddlebag. So we extricate that to do this kit, and basically we're just going to leave it with a tie along the frame in the bike. If you ever need to open the trunk, your emergency key system will still open your left saddlebag, which opens your right saddlebag. And then if you still need to get in your trunk for some reason, it's just two bolts on the saddle. You lift it up and you just go yank on this and the thing opens. So no big deal. If you're a maniac, you can go ahead and rethread this through every time you put the trunk on or off. But honestly, it's another 30 to 45 minutes of work to get through that. And I would never do it myself personally, compared to taking two bolts out of the seat just so I could yank on this. So it's too much aggravation, and that kind of defeats some of the fun of being able to take your trunk on and off in 15 minutes. So when you come to your fully assembled bike to start, when we're going to install the kit in the first place, you're going to have to remove your backrest, the passenger backrest. There's 6 screws. There's plenty of videos on this, and an electrical connector. That has to come off so that you can remove these side panel and speaker assemblies. They come off as one unit. I've got some videos showing that as well. But just to touch on it, there's a couple of Phillips screws here. You do not need to remove this Phillips screw here. There's 3 push pins in the bottom on each side, 3 Phillips screws on each side, and that panel will pop away, and you'll need to spread it to get this tab, which is kind of a nuisance, around these wires. So you have to spread this to get it off. You'll do that for each side. One other thing I forgot to mention, these 2 screws here remove just a center decorative plastic panel in the center. All right, so you take both painted parts off the sides. Your trunk will have this center part still there. There's just 4 Phillips screws and an electrical connector. I recommend taking that off just because it makes it less likely you're going to scratch it while you're changing out your subframe. Inside the trunk, There's 4 large bolts that are quite obvious in each corner. Those are the bolts that hold your subframe on, okay? And this is just sitting underneath the plastic housing. So you pull those 4 bolts out. This will just fall off, no problem. You set it to the side. You'll take the modified part that we provide you, and we're going to put it back. To explain this again, because this is one thing that people need to understand. This part gets modified. We do it here. We charge $100 for that. If you're international and don't want to pay to have this shipped, we can ship you the actual bracketry parts, and you can have this work done locally. It consists of cutting off some brackets, drilling some holes, and you'll need at least a belt sander. If not, a belt sander would work to smooth this surface. A mill is preferred to make it nice, and then you'll repaint it so that there's no bare metal. But we do all of that for $100. And if we do it for you, it's just a bolt-on part. You will have a core charge for basically the cost of a Honda bracket. You'll just return the bracket to us as a core charge, right? And we'll repeat that process. So you just put this back in place. You're going to put the 4 large bolts back using all the stock hardware. Tighten the hardware as it came from Honda. That's no problem. And then you're going to reassemble these things. Reassemble the plastics just so that it comes all the way back as if you were assembling it on the bike. In another video, I'll show you on another day, there's 4 holes we have to drill through the plastic, which is where we're going to put hardware to bolt this down to our bracketry system. So I'll show you on another video those 4 holes. But this is, if you can come in and look, these are the holes through the plastic in the trunk. This is where our hardware is going to drop through, and this is where you're going to use your tool. When you're done, we'll have decorative snap covers that block those holes, and that should be that. So we're kind of ready to go over here and set this thing up. And I'm just going to grab the 2 bolts. And so we've got our trunk assembly. We're just going to come over and set this up here. And what I'm looking for is the front of the subframe. That's what I'm observing, because we're going to put some bolts through there. Make sure your electrical connectors are to the outside of that. And these bolts pass through the actual frame of the motorcycle and into the subframe. So just wiggle this around until they go through. You will have to kind of wrestle with the wires a little bit. Can you see this bolt? This bolt's passed through the frame. Here's one on the other side you'll be able to watch me do. And you just got to move the harnesses out of the way. Just tug on them a little. Can't see the hole. There it is. Oops. Don't know why I'm so blind. There we go. Wiggle your trunk. Bolt comes through. Okay. Now, a nut goes on the end of that, but we're not going to deal with that right now. So the trunk is located nicely where we want it to be. Oops. My bad. Hang on, I haven't even done this in a while myself, so you're getting to watch me make a little mistake. At the back, you got to start and slide it over that bracket first. So come back here. Our brackets, you got to come and put the bracket inside of the bodywork, just like that. So now it's in. Sorry about that. Now we'll put the bolts back. Bolt. The bolt. The bolt. All right. Bolts are through. Okay, so to be expeditious for the video, I'm not going to put nuts on these. I will tell you this can be aggravating trying to put these nuts on here. So take your time. I'd recommend putting the nut in a wrench with a piece of paper towel. You can hold it in place and spin this bolt from the inside to get it started threaded in. That way you don't drop your nut down into the bike. You'll reconnect the electrical connectors into the boots. Nothing tricky about that. Connector, 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 and that's done. And inside the trunk, we've got these bolts. There's a 6mm bolt with a little standoff. These are made of steel in case for some reason you need to fish them out with a magnet. But we've made them so they fit down into these holes nicely through the subframe there. And now you're just going to take your time with this. You got to find the holes. Now our parts are nicely drilled and prepared, but you got to don't be a jerk off and jam these bolts down in the holes. There's a little play, right? So while for you to find where they catch. So let me see. There it is. And the last one should just line right up, hopefully. There we go. All right, so now I'm just going to tighten these 4 bolts down. At this point, I would go back up there to the front of the subframe after I tighten these bolts, and I'll tighten the 2 12mm headed bolts up there. You'll replace your saddle, and then your side covers, and then you're off in business. I got one more video to do after this one, and we're going to show you the parts and the method and the last modification that's required to back the bike up. Now, so from here, I would take your emergency trunk cable, and when you put the twist ties back, I'll just leave this cable right here so it's readily accessible. If you ever actually had to get in your trunk, you just lift your seat and the cable's right there. You can just yank on it. You don't even have to take the seat all the way off, and you should be able to get to that. So there's the trunk mounted. And again, to get it off, from this point now that you've done the kit and the installation's complete, shouldn't be any more than 15 minutes. So you would side cover, seat, disconnect the electrical connectors, 2 bolts here, 4 bolts in the back, pick the trunk up and go set it down, and then you can snap your cover on and you're riding a bagger just that fast. So this is pretty cool. I'm pretty stoked about it. So we'll be back again with one more video on relocating the trunk backwards, and this bike is pretty much ready to do that, except adding in a rear offset bracket. So we'll show you how to do that. So I'm Max. Thanks for watching this video. Please share these with your friends, and don't forget